And welcome back to Inside the Valley on this Sunday morning. Well, folks at the Research Institute at Renaissance continue to hold their ongoing research trials. Talk a little bit more about those trials, what's going on, and how potentially you can qualify. We've got Lisa Trevino here to talk a little bit more about it. Lisa, it's great seeing you.
Good to see you too.
So before we start talking about the ongoing trials that you have going on right now, what is it that the Research Institute at Renaissance does? Obviously, you do some research, but what else is it that you guys do?
So the hospital back in 2014 decided that there needed to be some sort of concerted initiative to bring down the latest therapies, the latest treatment regimens, protocols to the patients of the Valley. So what that entails is allowing the healthcare to be delivered locally and not having our patients have to travel to San Antonio or Houston or Dallas to receive medication or new treatments that they could be receiving locally here at the hospital.
Oh, wow. And so far, since you guys have started to this point, how have things been? How have you progressed?
It's been fantastic, actually, and we've gotten a lot of support from the hospital and the community. So we started with a single pipeline, if you will, for clinical trials in the area of diabetes, which we know is very prominent here in the Valley. And with about 60 to 70 patients enrolled across different diabetes trials. So now at the end of 2016, we were able to enroll a little over 700 patients onto clinical trials across different therapeutic areas. So we expanded from diabetes, type 1 and type 2 diabetes, to cardiovascular disease, to cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, women's health. So all trying to focus on the areas of unmet need here in the Valley.
So what are some of the research trials that you're doing right now?
So currently, again, we continue to focus on those areas that mostly affect our patient population. So that would be diabetes, you know, adult diabetes. We've got cardiovascular disease studies that are taking place for those patients that have uncontrolled uncontrolled cholesterol. Patients that have peripheral artery disease. We've got a breast cancer clinical trial going on right now in collaboration with the Yale School of Medicine.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We have 2 rheumatoid arthritis studies for patients that are naive to specific medications that are used to treat rheumatoid arthritis and those that are not having the best response to rheumatoid arthritis. A couple of stroke registries that we have, and really just trying to expand, again, the portfolio of trials that we bring here to the Valley.
Now, when you are doing these research trials, you're not really, I mean, the end goal obviously would be to find a cure.
Sure.
But you're kind of in the process of making your way to that, where you can find new medicines that people can use, which are less harmful maybe to their bodies or whatnot, especially when it comes to, say, diabetes. With that, how are you moving along with your diabetes research? Because it is such a prominent problem here in the Valley.
It is, and so there's really 2 different facets to biomedical research. There's the basic science that takes place in a laboratory where you're actually looking at the mechanisms of how medications work. And then there's the clinical and translational side of research, and that's what we're doing here at the hospital. So we're doing trials to determine maybe the efficacy or maybe new dosing or new combinations of existing medications and new medications, all through the drug approval process. So the drug approval process is quite lengthy. There's 4 different phases. You know, the early phase is really just testing the safety. You start from a very small group of patients to, you know, concertedly large groups of patients that are being assessed into the thousands. And so the process that we have at DHR is to look at those phases of the drug approval process in which we're trying to determine, again, the efficacy of the drug, always monitoring the safety of the drug or the device that we're testing. And at DHR, we're bringing in those studies where we already know, for the most part, data still being gathered about the safety and efficacy of these new treatments.
Now these trials, I mean, they last a long time.
They can.
When you do these trials, it's not just like a day, night, you've got the results, is it?
No, no, not at all. It varies from study to study. We have studies that are as short as maybe 6 months. And that's still not even that short. You know, but 6 months, and then some studies that last up to 5 years. You know, and a lot of the duration of the study comes into play with the follow-up. You know, how is the patient doing? You know, have there been any secondary effects? You know, mostly follow up when you get into the 2nd, 3rd, 4th year.
Sure, like if you're noticing any changes or what happened, what didn't work. Now, are you always looking for people to be part of the trials? Obviously, they probably need to qualify.
Absolutely.
How would, if somebody's out there right now, maybe hey, you know, I've got type 2 diabetes, I want to see if I can maybe reduce the dosage that I'm taking right now or maybe go a different route. How can I qualify to be a part of the trial?
So this is a really good question and a very good and important point that we've got to address. So aside from bringing down the latest treatments and the best medications and treatment protocols to the patients of the Valley, it's incredibly important for our community, the Hispanic community, to participate and be more engaged. So the Hispanic community in the United States is now about 17%. So we're the minority in the U.S. However, our representation in clinical trials is less than 1%. And that's really, really unfortunate, because throughout the drug approval process, the Hispanic community is not really being assessed on how they're going to respond to this medication. So participation is key, and asking your physician about these trials.
Now, I know some trials, some research trials that they do, sometimes the patient, they'll be paid. Are these paid trials that you offer as well?
Right. So we're not paying the patient to be on the study.
Okay.
We're compensating them for any inconvenience that they might have incurred, travel. Sometimes these office visits are lengthy.
Right.
So they've got to go out and get lunch. So sometimes the study sponsor will offer compensation for the patient to help with offset any inconvenience.
Now, I know a lot of people, when they hear about trials, they at first they want to do it, and then they kind of get scared, like, what's going to happen afterwards? Am I going to be the same? Am I going to have adverse reactions, or am I going to have sleep apnea? What's going to happen?
Right.
What is something that you can say to maybe the people who are watching right now at home that is kind of calming for them to say, hey, you know what? We do need you out here. We do need to talk to you guys. We need your help.
It's such a natural response to be a little bit intimidated.
Yeah.
Especially with clinical trials, you really don't know what to expect. What we'd like to tell our patients in the community is these trials that we have in the Valley or at DHR are highly regulated, and they are being run by highly qualified physicians. The research staff is incredibly qualified, and basically, you're just coming to see your physician or the lead of the trial more often. So you're being monitored and followed a lot more closely if you're on a clinical study.
Now, when you start the study, do you have to continue it all the way to the end, or halfway through, if you're not really feeling it anymore, can you drop out, or do you
Absolutely.
have to?
This is completely voluntary.
Okay.
So the patient at any point can decide, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, or it's not really working for me. They can decide to step out of the trial, and their standard of care will continue as if anything. So
Absolutely.
This is a completely voluntary process. There's an informed consent process that takes place, and that we're very diligent upon, and very sure to communicate with the patient at the very onset. This is what the trial is about. This is why we're asking you to be on the study. These are the risks. These are the benefits. So we walk them through the process at the very beginning.
Wow. And for people who are watching right now, they want to know if they can qualify, or who can they contact, or how can they find out?
So they can contact the Research Institute. Like I said, we've got various trials going on right now, and every study has different inclusion and exclusion criteria that they must meet to qualify. They can call us. We can do maybe a pre-screening over the phone and set up a visit for them to come into the Institute.
Or they can also send you an email directly. Is that liz.trevino@dhr-rgv.com?
That's correct. That's
and so if they have any questions, they can also ask you as well.
They can.
Be prepared. You might be inundated with emails.
I'm ready. I'm excited.
All right.
This
That's
is
good.
great.
That's what we want. Lisa, thank you so much. I really appreciate you for being on the show on this Sunday morning. Again, if you'd like some more information, call this number, 956-362-2380. Lisa, thanks again.
Thank you.
And folks, don't go anywhere on this Sunday morning. When we come back, we're going to be talking to the folks from Nueva Luz Foundation about their PTSD initiative. We'll tell you what it's all about and how you can get involved. Don't go anywhere.